بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Alhamdulillah, welcome back to another lesson of Mastering Tarkeeb. Inshallah, today we are covering an-nawadir, rarities in Arabic language when it comes to sentence construction. Sometimes we may see some words that appear and it can be a bit challenging to ascertain and determine what the tarkeeb is of these sentence structures. So last week we covered 17 and inshallah we want to continue and hopefully finish off the rarities inshallah today. So the 18th one is we see this phrase Al-awwal fal-awwal. Okay? Al-awwal fal-awwal. So let's look at an example. We have the sentence here وقف الطلاب الأول فالأول. So we can see that it's mansoob. So what is the tarkeeb going to be of this? But let's get this translation down first. The students stood. Literally means al-awwal, the first, then the first. So the students stood in order. So the first one, then the next one, then the next one. So in order and in sequence. So we can see that this phrase portrays sequence. Al-awwala fal-awwala. Now, how would we grammatically break this down? Okay, so waqafa, we know it's a past tense verb. So fi'lun madin. It's from waqafa yaqifu wuqufan, which means to stand. Al-tullab is a fa'il, plural of talibun, which is student. So the student stood, and we don't need to always translate the tarkeeb accordingly. So we have to see what our target language is. In this case, is English. What is the best way we can translate this in English? Maybe someone might have a better way, but I've just put down the students stood in order. We don't need to be too literal and say the students stood the first, then the first. So translation does not need to justify Arabic sentence construction or Arabic grammatical labels all the time. So if we see that a sentence is appearing as hal, for instance, we don't need to always force ourselves and compel ourselves to translate as whilst or in the state or condition. So al-awwal here, before we even reveal what this is in the tarkeeb, we're labeling this as ma'tuf alayh. Why? Because we're adding on al-awwal fal-awwal. So when we add through one of the conjunctive particles, hurufun atifatun, the word which we add onto is known as ma'tuf alayh. So in this case, al-awwal is ma'tuf alayh. The fa is atifatun, so the conjunctive particle. And what have we added onto al-awwala? Al-awwala again. So al-awwala is ma'tuf. Now what does this conjunctive phrase become? The ma'tuf alayh. It would become the hal of at-tullab. So al-awwala fal-awwala is becoming the hal of at-tullab. Now we know from the grammar books, hal is nakiratun mansubatun abadan. It's always indefinite and in the accusative state. Whereas here we see al-awwala fal-awwala, the word al-awwal has the definite article al. So how is this befitting to be hal? How is it valid for al-awwal becoming hal? Well, this is when we look at sometimes hal appears with the definite article, but it will be interpreted as an indefinite word. And we covered that in the different forms of hal. So sometimes hal might have a definite article, or it might seem to be ma'rifah, but it'll be interpreted as a nakira word. For example, when we see someone says "U'budullaha," worship Allah, and then wahdahu, alone. Now, when we look at that, worship Allah, and what's the state of Allah, like his condition? Alone, wahidan. So wahdahu, the mudaf ilayh, normally makes it specific. However, wahdahu in that situation will be interpreted as what? Wahidan or munfaridan. So same thing here as well. Al-awwala fal-awwala will be interpreted as a nakira word, a word which is indefinite. And what would that be? Murtabitina. So the students stood. وقف الطلاب مرتبطين. Murtabitina is from irtabata, yartabitu, irtibatan, which means to be in order or sequence. So al-awwala fal-awwala is mansub because hal, and it will be interpreted as the word murtabitina. Okay, in order, or probably mutarattibina, probably will be better. Mutarattibina, in tartib, in order. Okay, so that would be the interpreted word. Now, in terms of the bigger picture, it becomes a sentence, so jumlatun, fi'liyatun because it started with the verb waqafa, and khabriyatun because it is informative. Number 19, we have this word istilāhan. So sometimes we might see it says lughatan, which means the meaning of this word literally means this. And then we see it says istilāhan. Technically, this word will mean this. So what is the tarkeeb in terms of the grammatical breakdown when we see words like lughatan and istilāhan? So let's look at an example here. الصلاة اصطلاحا هي عبادة الله. The translation, let's get it down. Salah technically is the worship of Allah. الصلاة اصطلاحا هي عبادة الله, and then obviously carries on. You will get this probably text in the fiqh books because lughatan means ad-du'a. It just means supplication. But istilahan, in technical terms, in jurisprudence, what is it? It's worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a specific way of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So notice here, we got the word istilāhan. So how are we going to break this down in terms of tarkeeb? So let's look at the sentence as a whole. So the sentence started with a noun. So we got as-salatu. So as-salatu is going to be mubtada'un. Noun at the beginning of a sentence. We're not going to jump into the khabar straight away because we have this word istilāhan. Now, istilāhan would be the hal of as-salah, and it'll be interpreted as as-salatu hala kawniha mawdu'a ahli al-istilahi. That salah, it being coined according to the people, the linguistics, in terms of people who offer the linguistic meaning. Okay, it'll be interpreted as hal of the word as-salatu. So as-salatu hala kawniha mawdu'a ahli al-istilahi, or ahli al-istilahi. The salah, it being coined according to the people who offer the term technical meanings, is hiya ibadatullahi, is the worship of Allah. So how would you break this down then? As-salatu is dhul hal or sahibul hal, the word whose condition or state has been mentioned, and istilahan is mansub because it's hal, and it'll be interpreted as hala kawniha mawdu'u ahli al-istilahi. And then dhul hal and hal, if you want to do the tarkeeb in terms of piecing everything together, then dhul hal as-salatu with the hal istilahan, i.e. hala kawniha mawdu'u ahli ahli al-istilahi, will become the hal, together will become mubtada, and the rest we can say is the khabar. So here is another mubtada. As-salah prayer, and then it is the worship of Allah. So here the khabar has come in the form of jumlatun ismiyatun. It is the worship of Allah. The sentence carries on, that's why I put dots there. So if we take the khabar as a jumla ismiya, that means we have to start the tarkeeb again as a separate sentence. And now at the beginning of sentence is mubtada'un. Here is a pronoun. Ibadatu is mudaf. Ismul jalala is mudaf ilay. This mudaf ilay, ibadatullahi, will group together and become the khabar of here. Now here ibadatullahi, the mubtada and khabar now will become a sentence. Al-jumlatu fi mahalli raf. It's experiencing the state of raf. Why? Because it's become the khabar of the first mubtada, which is as-salatu. So just quickly break this down again. As-salah, dhul hal, istilāhan is hal. Together this becomes mubtada'un, and the khabar is a sentence. So here is mubtada'un. Ibadatullahi, mudaf ilayh becomes a khabar. The second mubtada here and the khabar ibadatullahi will become a sentence, experiencing the state of raf, because it's become the khabar of the first mubtada, which is as-salatu. And in terms of the bigger picture, it becomes a sentence, jumlatun ismiyatun, because it started with a noun, and khabriyatun, because it is informative. Okay, moving on to our 20th word in terms of rarities or words which seem a bit tricky in terms of what the tarkeeb is going to be. We have the word haqqan. Okay, now let's get an example here. Huwa akhi haqqan. Simple translation is, he is my brother actually. He actually is my brother. You can put it in a better way. Okay, this is just to make things easy. So we can see the word actually, haqqan. He is my brother in reality or actually. So why is haqqan mansoob? What role does he have in terms of tarkeeb? So let's break this sentence down. Huwa is a pronoun at the beginning of a sentence. So any noun at the beginning of a sentence, as long as it's not zarf, will take the role of mubtada'un. Now we have akhi, which is my brother. So akhi is a possessive phrase. So akh is mudaf and the ya is mudaf ilay. That will group together and become the khabar of huwa. He is my brother. Now we're left with this word haqqan. What's going to happen here? Well, haqqan will be mansoob because it will be considered to be Maf'ūl Mutlaq, an absolute object. What's an absolute object? It is when you have a masdar that comes in the meaning of the verb mentioned before. So simple terms, if somebody wants to emphasize helping, he could say Sa'adtu Zaydan musa'adatan. I helped Zayd a lot. So musa'adatan is the masdar of Sa'adtu. So Maf'ūl Mutlaq is the masdar which comes in the meaning of the verb mentioned before. Now in this case, haqqan, there's no verb mentioned before. So why is this mansoob? It's mansoob because Maf'ūl Mutlaq, it's a masdar, but the verb for this word is implied and hidden. I haqqa haqqan. Yeah. So in other words, you can probably say haqqu kawnuhu akhi haqqan. Him being my brother is firmly established, or it's real. So you can kind of interpret this sentence here, but the bottom line is haqqan is mansoob because it's maf'ul mutlaq, and maf'ul mutlaq being in the meaning of a verb mentioned before. So where's the verb? We will say it's mahzoof. It's hidden, and that is the word haqqa, which is a past tense verb. In terms of the bigger picture, this becomes a sentence, jumla ismiyatun because it started with a noun, so huwa, and khabriyatun because it is informative. Next, we see this word bu'dan, okay, away with, okay. So here we have, this is actually mentioned in the Quran, bu'dan lil qawmi zalimin. So waqila bu'dan lil qawmi zalimin, and it was said away with, meaning may be, at a distance and far away, yeah, from the mercy of Allah for who? The wrongdoing people. May the wrongdoing people be far and distant away from the mercy of Allah. So away with the wrongdoing people. So why is this word bu'dan mansoob? What's the tarkeeb going to be here? So here, bu'dan, there's two, or we can actually break it down to three possibilities. Here, in all three possibilities, Alhamdulillah. Bu'dan, in all three possibilities, it'll be Maf'ūl Mutlaq. Like we just mentioned before with the word Haqqan, it's considered to be a masdar which is in the meaning of the verb mentioned before. And if the verb is not mentioned before, it will be implied. And that's the same thing that's happening here. Bu'dan, in all three scenarios or three possibilities, it still is conveying one possibility in essence, and that is its Maf'ūl Mutlaq, but of what verb which is implied. So the verb either could be ab'adahumullahu bu'dan. So ab'ada means to make someone distant and far. So in other words, ab'adahumullahu bu'dan, Allah has totally kept them at bay, kept them far away. So bu'dan is maf'ul mutlaq of the fa'il mahzuf, which is ab'adahum, ab'adahumullahu. Allah has caused them to be distant from His mercy, totally away, bu'dan. So bu'dan is maf'ul mutlaq because it's in the meaning of the verb mentioned before, which is implied, which is ab'ada. Now, someone may argue and say, well, bu'dan is a masdar from thulathi mujarrad, from ba'uda yab'udu bu'dan, from karuma yakrumu, whereas ab'ada is from babi fa'al, ab'ada yubidu ib'adan. So we don't see here ab'adahumullahu ib'adan. Why bu'dan? Well, when we covered maf'ul mutlaq even in this course, and you can find this in Hidayat an-Nahw and other grammar books, sometimes the maf'ul mutlaq can be from a different verb pattern. For example, anbatahullahu nabatan. Allah allowed and caused him to grow. So anbata is from imbat and nabatan is from nabata yanbutu nabatan. So anbata means to grow, cause to grow, and nabata yanbutu means to grow. It's intransitive. So you can get that as well. Okay? So you can make, say, Zayd made Amr sit firmly. Ajlasa Zaydun Amran julusan. Julus and ajlas are two different verb patterns. Julus is from jalasa yajlisu, and ajlas is from ijlas. So that can happen. You can have taghayyurul abwab when it comes to maf'ul mutlaq. The maf'ul mutlaq can differ from the verb in terms of the bab. So that's allowed in maf'ul mutlaq. Another one is it's actually from the same verb. I ba'udu bu'dan. They were so distant and far away. So it's not actually a verb which is transitive, like in the case ab'adahumullahu. It's intransitive, i.e. lazim, and the verb which is implied for this maf'ul mutlaq is ba'udu. So that one is coinciding. So the masdar bu'dan is coinciding with the implied verb in terms of the same bab. So it's not mutaghayyirul bab. It's not differing in terms of the scale. And the third possibility, like we mentioned earlier on, that in all cases is maf'ul mutlaq. It's actually maf'ul mutlaq of an imperative verb which is implied, which is ub'udu. Become distant, totally, bu'dan. So bu'dan is maf'ul mutlaq of the fi'lu amr which is implied, which is ub'udu. So this is the three possibilities in terms of the implication of the verb, but one possibility when it comes to the actual word بعدا, and that is مفعول مطلق. And then للقوم الظالمين, lam is jar, القوم is majroor, and the jar majroor you can say is connected to the masdar بعدا, and الظالمين is the na'at of القوم. Okay, and in terms of the bigger picture, we can either say it's جملة فعلية خبرية / إنشائية. Why? If we say بعدوا بعدا or أبعدهم الله بعدا, then that will be جملة فعلية خبرية. And إنشائية, if we imply أبعدوا before the word بعدا as being مفعول مطلق, then it'll be جملة فعلية إنشائية. So this is in regards to the word بعدا, and it comes in the Quran. وَقِيلَ بُعْدًا لِلْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. And this is in relation to the people of Nuh alayhi salam. Next we have this word Baghtatan. Baghtatan. So what is the grammatical breakdown of this word? Well, we have this in the Quran as well. أَخَذْنَاهُمْ بَغْتَةً. So there's a bit of a mistake. There's supposed to be a sukoon there. So أَخَذْنَاهُمْ بَغْتَةً, which means and we seized them all of a sudden. So there's a bit of a wrong translation there. So we can probably just write over that translation. Okay. We seized them all of a sudden. Okay. So there's a translation. أخذناهم بغتة. So let's break this down. أخذنا is past tense verb, فعل ماض. The file is na. Okay. We seized. So it's from أخذ يأخذ أخذا, which means to seize or snatch or take away. Hum is the maf'ul bihi, أخذناهم. This is actually joined together, but I've just separated it for the sake of Tarkeeb. And Baghtatan is the hal of أخذناهم. There's a few possibilities here, but let's break this down. So أخذناهم, we seize them. Okay, and how was this seizing? Okay, unexpectedly. So we unexpectedly seize them. So it's the hal baghtatan of the fa'il inside أخذناهم. So the fa'il is the na. Okay. So in that situation, it would be mufaji'in. Okay. Unexpectedly. So it'll be the ismul fa'il pattern. So there's a bit of a back and forth here. Okay. So halum min fa'ili أخذناهم. It's the circumstantial phrase of the fa'il in أخذناهم. So we seize them mufaji'in. Okay, all of a sudden, unexpectedly. Or it's the hal of the maf'ul bihi, that is the state of them. And we seize them, okay, them meaning the people. And in that case, it'll be mufaja'ina, okay, catching them out all of a sudden, unexpectedly, them not expecting, okay. So mufaja'ina, if it's the maf'ul bihi. Or there's a third possibility, and that is it's actually the na'ib of the maf'ul mutlaq, which is implied. So baghtatan is actually the sifa of the maf'ul mutlaq, which is implied. So akhadnahum, we seize them. Akhdan, a seizing which was baghtatan, unexpected. So just to summarize, the word baghtatan, which means all of a sudden or unexpectedly, there's three possibilities. One is it's the hal of akhadna. So we seized them. Okay, we seized unexpectedly them. The second possibility is it's the hal of the maf'ul bihi. So akhadnahum, we seized them. Them meaning unexpectedly. Okay, them not expecting these consequences. And the third possibility is it's mansoob because it's the naib of the maf'ul mutlaq. What's naib and maf'ul mutlaq? This is when we have the sifa of the maf'ul mutlaq in place of the actual maf'ul mutlaq. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا. Mention and remember Allah, okay, abundantly, in abundance. So we got dhikran kathira, but if one was to remove the word dhikran and it was to be mentioned uzkurullaha kathiran, so make mention of Allah, remember Allah, and kathiran, that is the nat of the maf'ul mutlaq which has just been omitted. If it was to remove the word dhikran, so that is where the sifa of the maf'ul mutlaq has been mentioned in place of the maf'ul mutlaq. So that's what's happening here. أخذناهم أخذا بغتة. We seized them a seizing which was unexpected. So that's number 22. And in terms of the bigger picture, it becomes jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. Okay, so let's get rid of the annotation. There's a bit of a wrong translation there. Okay, hope we haven't continued with our wrong translations. We have this word Tāratan. Tāratan. So here we have minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. So this is also from the Quran. So we have from it we will bring you out once more. Taratan ukhra. So we will bring you out from there again. One more time. So what is the i'rab of taratan? Why is it mansoob? Well, let's break the sentence down fully in terms of grammar. So we have here minha. So the jar majroor here, we can connect it to the verb nukhriju, which has come after. Yeah. Minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. So it's part of a wider verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, from it meaning the clay we have created you, minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum, and in it we shall return you, wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra, and from it we will bring you out another one more time. So minha, the prepositional phrase here is connected to the verb nukhriju. Now nukhriju, let's break this down, is fi'lun mudari'un more specifically. The fa'il is nahnu, not na, so there's a bit of a mistake there. And the kum is maf'ul bihi. So fi'lun mudari'un nukhriju, the fa'il is nahnu, and the kum is maf'ul bihi. So what's taratan? It's maf'ul fi, Zarf Zamān. Because when we say once more, another time, it's referring to time, maf'ul fi. And ukhra is the nat of taratan, because ukhra is the feminine version of akhar. Akhar means another, and ukhra means another, but for feminine. Because the taratan, the word taratan has got ta'un marbutatun, so it'll be wrong to say taratan akhar, taratan ukhra, because the pattern will be fu'la pattern, if you want to say another, as a nat for the word taratan. So this will be the tarkeeb of the word Tāratan. In terms of the bigger picture, it becomes jumlatun fi'liyatun, because we won't take into consideration the preposition in terms of determining the sentence. What's come after it? Nukhrijukum. So it'll be jumlatun fi'liyatun, and khabriyatun because it's informative. Next we have this word called ta'san. It's in the Quran. Okay, so let's look at an example. الذين كفروا فتعسا لهم. Well, in the verse it says والذين كفروا فتعسا لهم. So what's the grammatical breakdown of this word that appears in the Quran? Ta'san. So let's get the translation down first. As for those who disbelieved, الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, فَتَعْسًا لَهُمْ, then woe to them. Ta'san means woe or destruction. So let's break this down. الَّذِينَ is ismun mawsul, the relative pronoun. And we know relative pronouns, they have a sentence which comes after it, and that is known as the relative clause. In Arabic, jumlatus silah. So where is the jumlatus silah? Let's break that down. That's kafaru. So kafaru is a past tense verb, fi'lun madin. The fa'il is the waw. And what does now the mawsul silah become? It becomes mubtada'un, because a noun at the beginning of a sentence, alladhina ismul mawsul, is a relative pronoun, still a noun. So that means the mawsul silah will become mubtada'un. Because when we have ismul mawsul, the relative pronoun, along with the jumlatul silah, it never is a complete sentence. Even when we used to say, when we say the translation, those who disbelieved, it also just a complete translation. So it'll always become juz'ul jumla, a part of the sentence. So what is that part? Alladhina kafaru is playing here, is playing the role of mubtada'un. What's the fa here? It's appearing واقعة في جواب الذي متضمن معنى الشرط. It's appearing in response to الذي, which entails the meaning of condition. So that's why we can see as for those. That's why in translation we can see the aspect of الذين being as conditional in the meaning of condition, a shart, is reflecting the translation where it says as for those. So as for those who disbelieved, what's the outcome? Then woe to them. So here الذين is entailing the meaning of shart, condition. So that's why this fa has appeared. Okay, and when we see conditional sentences, we have shart and we have jaza. Okay, which is the condition and the outcome. So the alladhina kafaru is acting as the shart, the condition, and the outcome is ta'san lahum. Now coming on to our word ta'san, this will be maf'ūl mutlaq of the verb which is implied. It's hidden. And that will be at'asahumullahu ta'san. Okay, may Allah destroy them. Okay, may Allah put them into destruction. At'asahumullahu ta'san. So again here, ta'san, it's not like for like in terms of the masdar of at'asa. It would have been it'as, but however this is allowed when it comes to maf'ūl mutlaq. You can have the masdar of a thulathi word. However, the verb which is implied could be thulathi mazid fi instead of thulathi mujarrad. Okay, so here ta'san is mansoob, it's in the state of nasb. Why? Because it's maf'ūl mutlaq. And maf'ūl mutlaq is a masdar that comes with the meaning of verb mentioned before. There's no verb mentioned before in the same meaning. So that means we'll have to suggest that at'asahumullahu is the verb which is hidden and it's implied. And lahum, the prepositional phrase. Okay, so those who disbelieve, as for those who disbelieve, then woe to them. Okay, so if you have a nakira word, a word which is indefinite, and you have a prepositional phrase, in Tarkeeb is man'ut an-nat. So then a woe which belongs to them or which is for them, if you want to make sense of the nat. So lahum, we will connect it to that which is hidden, which is ka'inan, because prepositional phrases generally we say they are muta'alliq, connected to something. And in this case, we can't connect it straightforward to ta'san. We would say it's to ka'inan, and that is becoming the sifa of ta'san. And then if you want to complete it, you could just say man'ut al-nat, okay, becomes the jawab of الذين كفروا, which entails the meaning of shart. In terms of the bigger picture, it started with a noun, الذين اسم الموصول, relative pronoun, still a noun. So we say جملة اسمية, and it's informative because conditional sentences are treated as informative sentences. So we say جملة اسمية خبرية. Next, we have the word جميعا. Okay, we see this in a lot of places in the Arabic text. So what's the reason of it being mansoob, and what would be the grammatical breakdown? So let's look at an example here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, اهبطوا منها جميعا. Okay, وقلنا اهبطوا منها جميعا. And we said, اهبطوا منها جميعا, descend from it, all of you. Okay, so descend from it, all of you. Now, اهبطوا, it's fi'lu amr, okay, from habata yahbitu, which means to descend, to come down. And the fa'il is the waw, because it's a command to plural, so the waw would be the fa'il. Minha, min is a preposition, so jar, or you could say harfu jar, and the ha is the majroof. And this prepositional phrase, we'll say, is connected to the fi'lu amr, the imperative verb ihbitu. There's a bit of a sukoon missing there. Now the word in relation to our slide is Jamī'an, all of you. So why is this mansoob? So Jamī'an is mansoob because it's actually becoming the hal, the circumstantial phrase of the pronoun, plural pronoun in ihbitu. Okay, so ihbitu minha jami'an ay mujtami'ina. So I've just missed that out in terms of, it can be interpreted as mujtami'ina. Okay, descend from it, all of you together. Mujtami'ina, being together, all of you descend from it. So Jamī'an, it will be mansoob because it will be considered to be hal, and hal is one of the mansoobat, those words which are deemed to be experienced in the state of nasb, the accusative case. In terms of the bigger picture, the sentence started with a verb, so it's jumlatun fi'liyatun. It's imperative, so we will say insha'iyatun. Our next word is jawazan. Jawazan, okay, which suggests allowance and permissibility. So, for example, قد يحذف الفعل جوازا. قد يحذف الفعل جوازا, which means sometimes the verb is omitted optionally, allowingly, jawazan. So why is jawazan mansoob? What's the reason of the word jawazan becoming mansoob? Okay, so let's break this down. Qad is harfu taqleel. Now in Arabic grammar, the function of qad can be many. It could sometimes come for takthir. So for example, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ. We keep on seeing, okay, the turning of your face towards the sky. So there you see translators, they will suggest the meaning of, you know, regular occurrence, so takthir. Sometimes it just can come for tahqiq, establishing a fact like قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The believers have indeed succeeded. Here is suggesting taqleel, rarity. So sometimes, that's why we can see the translation is sometimes. It's not always the case that qad, if it comes before fi'l al-mudari, it's going to be always taqleel. A lot of times it is, okay, but it's not 100% that if fi'l al-mudari appears after the word qad, it's always for taqleel. No, Because in the Quran you have قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الْمُعَوِّقِينَ مِنْكُمْ. So there, قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ, you can't say sometimes Allah knows. Allah always knows, most definitely knows. So يُحْذَفُ, anyway, carrying on, is فِعْلٌ مُضَارِعٌ مَجْهُولٌ. So it's a imperfect tense verb and it's in the passive voice, majhul. That means it's not going to have a fa'il, rather it's going to have na'ibul fa'il, the substitute doer, if you want to mention it like that. So al-fi'lu, the verb is sometimes omitted. So al-fi'lu is the na'ibul fa'il. Jawazan, why is this word mansoob? It's standing in place of the Maf'ūl Mutlaq. So it's deputizing for the Maf'ūl Mutlaq, na'ib and Maf'ūl Mutlaq, which is hidden. A hazfan jaizan. So in other words, sentences applying. قد يحذف الفعل حذفا جائزا. It will be interpreted as sometimes the verb is omitted, an omission which is allowed. حذفا جائزا. So that's why the word jawazan will be mansoob, because it will be deemed to be maf'ul mutlaq, and maf'ul mutlaq is one of the mansoobat. In terms of the bigger picture, this sentence becomes fi'liyatun, starting with the verb. We want to take into consideration the word qad, and khabariyatun because it is informative. Moving on to our next word, which is jiddan. Why is this word mansoob? So here we have هذا رجل عالم جدا, which means this is a very learned man. So the word very comes about from the word jiddan. So why is this word mansoob? And we see this in Qasasun Nabiyyin right at the beginning. And those who are interested in purchasing the full Arab of Qasasun Nabiyyin part 1 with vocabulary, over 1,000 word forms, then you can go onto the website www.sidrainstitute.com, and in the drop down menu of the home menu you will see publications, and there you will be able to purchase the version of Qasasun Nabiyyin, which entails the full Arab and grammatical aspects of Qasasun Nabiyyin, along with vocabulary and even rhetorical points are mentioned there, and points from Kutub Tafasir, books of exegesis, Quranic exegesis. So wherever verses have been mentioned in the Qasasun Nabiyyin, a bit of sharh has been taken from those Quranic exegesis. So anyway, coming back to here, we have this sentence. We need a grammatical breakdown of jiddan. So now this sentence starts with a noun. So hada is ismul ishara, noun at the beginning of a sentence. It'll take the role of mubtada'un. Now rajulun alimun, learned man. So it's a mawsuf sifa construct. So rajulun will say man'ud. Another word for mawsuf is man'ud. And alimun will say it's nat. The man'ud and nat will become the khabar of hada. Now jiddan, it will be maf'ul mutlaq of the verb hidden, which is yajiddu. Jadda yajiddu means to be, you could say like to be serious, to try earnestly, jiddan. But here we'll say, extremely. It gives a meaning of extremely. So this is an extremely learned man. And like I said as well before, the tarkeeb does not need to fit in with the translation. We just get on with the translation and translate as very or extremely, and just settle for it that it's mansoob because it's maf'ul mutlaq of the verb which is implied, and we'll take out the verb of jiddan, which is yajiddu, and it portrays the meaning of some extremity or great lengths of something. So in terms of this person, the extent of his knowledge is great. In terms of the bigger picture, it's jumlatun ismiyatun, because starting with the demonstrative pronoun, hada, and khabriyatun because it is informative. The next word we have is jayyidan. Okay, so let's look at an example. Fahima Zaydun ad-darsa jayyidan, which means Zayd understood the lesson well. So jayyidan, we see that it appears as mansoob. So in Qasasun Nabiyyin as well, if I'm not wrong, there's a sentence where it says وَكَانَ يَعْرِفُ ذَلِكَ وَكَانَ يَعْرِفُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذَلِكَ جَيِّدًا, and shaitan knew that quite well. In other words, that people were very fond of the pious people who had passed away, and then he tricked them into making pictures, and then from pictures they moved on to idols, and then from idols they moved on to statues. So the word Jayyidan is mentioned there, if I'm not wrong. So why is this word mansoob? So let's break this simple sentence down. So fahima is from fahima yafhamu, so it's past tense verb, so fi'lun madin. Zayd is the doer, so Zayd understood, fa'il, and ad-darsa is a maf'ul bihi. So simple sentence, Zayd understood the lesson. Now Jayyidan means well. So why is this mansoob? We would say it's naib and maf'ul mutlaq. It's deputizing for the maf'ul mutlaq, the absolute object. So in other words, it's implying fahima Zaydun ad-darsa fahman jayyidan. Zayd understood the lesson, an understanding which was good and well. If we want to literally break it down like that, we just can simply translate it as Zayd understood the lesson well. So like we mentioned before as well, Uzkurullaha kathiran. Sometimes the sifa of the maf'ul mutlaq is mentioned, so that means that the sifa is deputizing and filling the boots of the maf'ul mutlaq, which is omitted. So it'll be deemed to be naib and maf'ul mutlaq, the word which is deputizing and taking the place of the maf'ul mutlaq. So in essence, it's actually the nat of it, but it's done in this place because it has been omitted from the text. In terms of the bigger picture, we'll say jumlatun fi'liyatun because starting with the verb fahima, and khabriyatun because it is informative. Next, we have the word jiharan, which translates as openly. So inni da'awtuhum jiharan. So in regards to Nuh alayhi salam, he says that I called them openly. So Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, he called his people secretly. Another way he called his people was jiharan. This word appears in the 6th juz as well. La yuhibbullahu al-jahra. Okay, so inni da'awtuhum jiharan. Why is this word mansoob? So let's break this sentence down. Inni is actually harfun mushabbahun bi fi'lin, or harfu tawkidin wa nasbin. It's a particle which resembles a verb, or you could say it's a particle of emphasis, harfu tawkidin wa nasbin, and accusative particle, i.e. it puts the noun after it in the accusative state, in the state of nasb. So where's the ism of inna? Well, it's attached to it, it's a pronoun, and that's the ya. So the ya is the ism of inna. That means everything else is going to become the khabar. Khabar is marfu, but we can't see the sign of raf because it's a sentence. So we'll say the sentence is fi mahalli raf, is in the nominative position and station. And the sentence, okay, will be experiencing the state of raf, being the khabar of inna. So let's break the khabar of inna down, which is going to be experiencing the state of raf, sorry. Da'utu is a past tense verb from da'a yad'u, so it's fi'lun madin. The fa'il is the ta, which denotes ana, so I called. Hum is the maf'ul bihi, I called them. Inni da'utuhum, this is normally attached together, so maf'ul bihi. And jiharan, it's the hal of the dhamir at-ta'in fi da'utu. So in da'utu, I call them mujahiran, publicly, openly, aloud. Mujahiran, voicing myself. So mujahiran. So it's ismul fa'il from jahara, yujahiru mujaharatan, wa jiharan. So we know that sometimes ba mufa'ala actually has two masters. One is mufa'alatan, like qatala yuqatilu muqatalatan, and one is fi'alan, like qitalan. So qitalan and muqatalatan both are the master of qatala yuqatilu. So jahara yujahiru, one master is mujaharatan and the other one is jiharan. And we know the hal can come in the form of master. Okay, and it's more effective to say إني دعوتهم جهارا as opposed to إني دعوتهم مجاهرا, because masdar adds more stress. So if somebody says جاء زيد يمشي, Zaid came walking fine, but you want to add stress to the walking, the circumstantial phrase, you can bring the hal in the form of masdar and say جاء زيد مشيا. So same thing here, إني دعوتهم جهارا. So hal has appeared in the form of masdar. So why is jiharan mansoob? It's the hal of the fa'il in da'utu, which is the ta. And this sentence, da'utuhum jiharan, the fi'l madin, the fa'il, which is the tu, the maf'ul bihi, and the hal will become a sentence. It'll be deemed to be in the state of raf because it becomes the khabar of inna. And inna, which is ism, noun, and khabar, ism and khabar, will become jumlatun ismiyatun khabariyatun. A sentence which is nominal and declarative, okay, informative. Next, we have the word like khasatan and khususatan. So these words here, remember, look at the, it's key that we look at the word wa before it, because the tarkeeb can change. If we say khasatan and khususatan without the wa, and with the wa, there's a different possibility. So we want to cover أحب العلم وخاصة, or we say وخصوصا النحو. So I love knowledge. أحب العلم وخاصة خصوصا النحو, especially grammar, syntax. I hope that's the case. So I love knowledge, especially grammar. The key thing is the wa here, because the next slide, if I'm not wrong, I've prepared it without the wa. So that can change the dynamics in terms of tarkeeb. So let's break this down. أحب is فعل مضارع. The file is أنا. So in أحب we have the file I love, I like. العلم, knowledge. مفعول به. So pretty straightforward there. The wa here is عاطفة. So we're doing عطف here on the word knowledge. Now خاصة and خصوصا, we can see here it's mansoob. Why is this word mansoob? Okay, it will be the Maf'ūl Mutlaq of the verb which is hidden, which is أخص خاصة. I am, categorizing and specifically mentioning. So وأخص خاصة النحو. So in this case, okay, the word خاصة, or whether we're saying خصوصا, will be مفعول مطلق of a verb which is hidden, which is أخص, and that will mean I am specifying. And the word النحو would be the maf'ul bihi of this verb which is omitted. So notice here, when we add the word wa, we are actually saying two sentences. Uhibbul ilma, I love knowledge. This sentence is ma'tuf alayh, wa and khasatan or khususan an-nahwa. And I specifically mention an-nahwa, or I specify grammar, syntax. When the wa is there, that means the sentence before is ma'tuf alayh, and after the wa there's another sentence which is khasatan nahwa, and khasatan and khususan, it's the maf'ul mutlaq of the verb which is hidden, which is akhussu. So in other words, we are saying wa akhussu nahwa khasatan, or whether we said khususan, I am specifying nah totally. So that is the tarkeeb of khasatan and khususatan when there's a wa. In terms of the bigger picture, both sentences will be deemed to be declarative. So jumlatun fi'liyatun khabriyatun. Uhibbu is jumla fi'liya, sentence khabriya. Wa akhussu, whether we say wa khasatan nahwa, which implies wa akhussu nahwa khasatan or khususan, will also be jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. And notice here I said the word wa, because the next slide, okay, is going to be without it. So if we say a sentence now, let's bring the same sentence. أحب العلم خاصة خصوصا النحو. Now there's the omission of the verb. There's no wow mention. It's going to change the dynamics in terms of tarkeeb. So now it's actually one sentence. We're actually making it as a one sentence now. There's no atf taking place in between two sentences. So same, I love knowledge, especially grammar. Okay. أحب is فعل مضارع, the file is أنا. العلم is the مفعول به. Now خاصة خصوصا, in this case, okay, it would be the hal of the file, which is أحب. So we are saying I love knowledge, okay, and the hal of أحب is خاصة خصوصا, i.e. me specifically or specifying grammar. So I love knowledge, me specifying grammar. So خاصة خصوصا, this will be in the meaning of خاص, which means to specify. So أحب العلم خاصا, so I love knowledge, specifically or specifying grammar and nahwa. In that case, النحو will be the مفعول به of خاصة or خصوصا. Not anything needs to, nothing needs to be implied here. So here النحو is the مفعول به of the حال. So أحب العلم خاصة النحو. I love knowledge, specifying grammar. Whereas if what was to be added, that means أحب العلم will be one sentence, and وخاصة النحو will imply وأخص النحو خاصة or خصوصا, another sentence. And that situation, خاصة will be the مفعول مطلق or of the verb which is hidden, which is أخص. But in this case, we don't have the wa, so it's not a separate sentence. And then النحو, it'll change the dynamics as well. So خاصة خصوصا will be the hal of the pronoun inside أحب, and it'll portray the meaning of khas, to specify something. So I love knowledge, specifying grammar. So النحو in that case will be the maf'ul bi of the hal. And in terms of the bigger picture, it becomes jumlatun fi'liyatun because it started with the verb أحب, and khabriyatun because it is informative. Next, we have this word kharijan. Kharijan. So let's look at this. انتظرت رفيقي خارجا, which means I waited for my friend outside. So sometimes we see this word kharijan. Okay. Kharaja yakhruju means to leave. Kharij means something which is, something which is leaving, departing. But it's also used as outside, meaning, kharij. Okay. So when it's used as, this meaning outside, what would the tarkeeb be? So let's break this down. So انتظرت is past tense verb, فعل ماض, the file is a ta. So from انتظر ينتظر انتظارا. رفيقي, I'm waiting for my friend. So it's مضاف مضاف إليه construct, and that becomes the مفعول به. Okay, so a bit of a mistake there. مفعول فيه. It's مفعول به. Okay, we need to get the Arabic dictionary on. مفعول به. And the word that is actually مفعول فيه is خارجا, because when we say outside, it's referring to place. ظرف مكان. And you can even probably go a step further and say انتظرت رفيقي. خارجا is the nat of the مفعول فيه, which is hidden. مكانا خارجا. I waited for my friend at a place which was outside. مكانا خارجا. So outright we could just say خارجا is the مفعول فيه, ظرف مكان, that's why it's mansoob. Or we can say it's the nat of the man'ut, which is omitted, which is مكانا, and that word is the ظرف مكان. انتظرت رفيقي مكانا خارجا or منزلا. kharijan. So that's the take on the word kharijan. In terms of the bigger picture, is jumlatun fi'liyatun, so another mistake again. So the mistakes are flooding in. So jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. Okay, so we're going to change that to jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. Okay. Let's get rid of some annotations. Okay, so we had one there, we had one there. There's another one there, somewhere there. Let's just fire away. We have the word dunak. Okay, so dunakal qalam. So what's the grammatical breakdown of dunak? Notice here the word after it is mansoob. So that kind of gives us a bit of an idea. Take the pen. Now that even makes it a bit more obvious. Okay, take. Now, dunaka is considered to be ismul fi'l. It's a noun which entails the meaning of a verb, and more specifically fi'lu amr, and that is the word khudh, which means take. So dunaka is ismul fi'l in the meaning of khudh, and that's why the word al-qalama is maf'ul bihi. Ay khudhil qalama, take the pen. So that would be the grammatical breakdown of the word dunaka. Tell the bigger picture, we can either consider to be jumlatun fi'liyatun, taking in consideration dunaka in the meaning of khudh, and insha'iyatun because it's an imperative verb. Next, we have the word that. Okay, so here we have ذات ليلة رأى إبراهيم كوكبا. So why is this word mansoob? What's the reason? You know, that, why not that too? Okay, one night Ibrahim saw a star. And also this is from Qasasun Nabiyyin as well. If somebody is interested in purchasing the whole Arab of Qasasun Nabiyyin part 1, okay, you can visit the website www.sidrainstitute.com. Dhata, okay, one night Ibrahim saw a star. So dhata is used as a possessive phrase. And it's actually the feminine version of dhu. So if somebody says dhu ilmin, one person of knowledge, that is the feminine. But sometimes when there's zarf after it, it gives the meaning of one. So dhata laylatin, one night. And it's used as a possessive phrase. Why is it that? Why is it mansoob? We'll come to know. So laylatin is mudaf ilayh, so it works as a possessive phrase. It's mansoob because it's considered to be maf'ul fi zarf zaman. The actual zarf zaman is the word night, because that works with idafa, okay, and it always comes first. We can even say it's naib and zarf. It's deputizing for the zarf, which is layla. So that means one, and layla means layla means night. So that is mansoob because it's deputizing for the maf'ul fi, which is laylatin, and that can't take the role of being mansoob or maf'ul fi because it's mudaf ilayh. So we'll say that is naib and zarf in that situation, or we can just say outright, that is maf'ul fi zarf zaman, easy way out. As mudaf, laylatin is mudaf ilayh. Rest of the sentence is pretty straightforward. Ra'a is fi'l madin, Ibrahim is the fa'il, and kawkaban is maf'ul bihi. And it becomes jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. Next, we have the word raghadan. This also comes in the Quran. Kula minha raghadan, which means eat from there comfortably. Okay. Now, kula is fi'lu amr. The fa'il is aliful ithnain. So you both eat. Min Adam and Hawa alayhim as-salam. Minha, the prepositional phrase connected to the word kula. And raghadan, why is this mansoob? It's the nat, it's the sifa of Maf'ūl Mutlaq, so it's deputizing for the Maf'ūl Mutlaq. Ay aklan or raghadan. So both of you eat from there, and eating which is free and comfortable. So freely eat from there, comfortably eat from there, at your own ease. Okay, so here raghadan is mansoob because it's deputizing for the maf'ul mutlaq, which is hidden, which is aklan. So kula minha aklan or raghadan. That's why it's mansoob. It'll be jumlatun fi'liyatun, started with the command form. Kula, both of you, it is addressing to. Kul will be the singular. Kula would be the for addressing to. Insha'iyatun, because fi'lu amr is considered to be a non-informative sentence. Now we have this word sa'daik, okay, which translates as ready to help, present, I'm at your assistance, at your service, sa'daik. Okay. Why is it mansoob? Okay, because it's a dual word. Okay, so a dual word in the state of nasb, it'll be with a ya. So in other words, it's maf'ūl mutlaq of the verb which is implied, which is as'adakallahu sa'dan. May Allah make you fortunate. Okay. May Allah make you prosper. Okay. May Allah make you prosperous through my service. Okay. Now here, the kaf is sa'daik. Okay. Now if you see sa'dan is singular, where did the dual come from? In other words, it's saying as'adakallahu sa'dan ba'da sa'din. May Allah, grant you prosperity after prosperity. Okay, and in other words, I'm ready to help you in that regard. I'm ready. I'm at your service. So what's happened here is the kaf is actually emanated from the maf'ul bihi, as'adakallahu, and sa'dan is the maf'ul mutlaq. So at this stage we got sa'daka, and I've mentioned this before as well. Sometimes what happens is in maf'ul mutlaq we cover this extensively. There's actually a sentence implied, and that sentence is kind of like shortened and brought as one phrase, but it actually implies a whole sentence. For example, ma'adallah, which translates as God forbid. God save us from this. I seek Allah's protection from this. Ma'adallah is actually a breakdown of a'udhu billahi. Ma'adhan or a'udhu billahi iyadhan. Sometimes we use the word al-iyadhu billah. So ma'adallah, actually the word ma'ad is the maf'ul mutlaq of a'udhu billahi ma'adhan or iyadhan. And the word Allah was the actual majroor in a'udhu billahi. So the ismun majroor, okay, and the maf'ul mutlaq ma'ad has been combined together as a possessive phrase. So the masdar has come first, which is ma'ad, and the majroor has come as mudaf ilayh and is been mentioned as ma'adallahi. So ma'adallahi implies a'udhu billahi. But parts of the implied sentence have been brought together as a possessive phrase. So that's what happens in the word subhanallahi. Glory be to Allah. In other words, we are saying usabbihullaha subhanan. I glorify Allah greatly. So the maf'ul mutlaq subhan has been made mudhaf towards the maf'ul bihi, which is ismul jalala, because it was usabbihullaha. So parts of the implied sentence have been brought together as a possessive phrase. And it said subhanallahi, which in essence was usabbihullah subhanan. Now coming back to sa'daik, as'adakallahu sa'dan. Like we mentioned, parts of the implied sentence have been brought together as a possessive phrase. So let me mention that again. Parts of the implied sentence, as'adakallahu sa'dan, have been brought together as a possessive phrase. Now, how does this make sense? Well, the kaf has come from the maf'ul bihi, as'adakallahu. Okay, so that's where the kaf has come from. Where has the word sa'daik come from? Okay, which means prospering twice. It's come from the word sa'dan. So, in other words, we are saying as'adakallahu sa'dan ba'da sa'din. May Allah grant you prosperity, okay, after prosperity, sa'dan ba'da sa'din. So it's like a double. So sa'dan ba'da sa'din, which means twice, again and again, if you bring the word that as one word is sa'dani. But because in the state of nasb, we're going to say sa'daini. But noon is dropped off at the time of idafa. So we're going to say sa'dayka. Sa'dayka. So this is the breakdown of sa'dayka. The kaf is from the maf'ul bihi in as'adakallahu, and the dual form sa'dayk is from sa'dan ba'da sa'din. And in translation, we just say, I'm here, I'm at your service. I'm here, ready to help you, to make you achieve prosperity, which is granted by Allah, prosperity after prosperity. As'adakallahu sa'dan ba'da sa'din. So that's a grammatical breakdown of the word sa'dayk. And this is where the kaf comes from the maf'ul bihi, and sa'dayk comes from sa'dan ba'da sa'din. In terms of the bigger picture, it's jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. You can say insha'iyatun if it's, considered to be jumla du'a'iyya. Okay, so this is a grammatical breakdown of sa'dayk. Next thing we have labbaik. This is another one we see as well, labbaik. Okay, so again we see this sentence, at your service. Okay, so here labbaik, it's the maf'ūl mutlaq of the implied version, ulabbi talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin. I am offering my service after a service. Okay, I'm presenting myself time again and again. Talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin. Okay, so ulabbi talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin laka. Okay, now the kaf has come from the khitab. So if you say laka, for instance, okay, the kaf has come from the khitab, addressing the individual. Like we said, a'udhu billahi, the word Allah is actually majroor. So in laka, the khitab, the kaf has come from the khitab, who you're addressing. Now, talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin, that's dual form. So labbaik, okay, is actually two talbiyas, one talbiya after another talbiya. So instead of saying talbiya, talbiyatayka is shortened as labbaika. Okay, so in other words, it implies I am at your service. Talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin. So in other words, when we go for Hajj, etc., we say labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, I'm at your service. I'm ready to, serve myself for your sake. So ulabbi talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin. The dual form is from the word talbiyatan ba'da. Talbiya is shortened and the kaf is for addressing. And this is how this became this phrase and is translated as at your service. And in terms of looking at the implication, ulabbi talbiyatan ba'da talbiyatin, we would say jumlatun fi'liyatun khabariyatun. So alhamdulillah, that is the nawadir finished. Okay, and before we move on to the chapters of the glorious Quran, we want to cover, inshallah, possessive phrase, al-mudhaf wal-mudhaf ilayh. So if you can see here, under al-murakkabat, we did mention mudhaf and mudhaf ilayh, but it was briefly. So before we move on to the last chapters of the Quran, I thought it would probably be befitting if we cover mudhaf ilayh extensively, because sometimes students, they think that mudhaf ilayh just involves possession, but there's actually more to mudhaf ilayh, idafa, annexation, or a possessive construct, idafa. So inshallah, if anybody is interested in any of our courses, you can visit www.sidrainstitute.com. There you will find various courses ranging from Arabic rhetoric course, the Arab course, Tarkeeb course. There's some other courses which are free and available to view as well. Searching for words in the Handsaway Dictionary, etc. We have our publication of Qasasul Nabiyyin, the full grammatical analysis of Qasasul Nabiyyin part 1, inshallah, and we want to, inshallah, continue that as well. So in the coming probably months, there will be 1-2 more publications as well through your du'as and support. So for now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.